Okay, okay, okay. Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of WIC TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. Gang, have we got a show for you tonight? Been a bit of a headache, this one. We've had a few last-minute switcheroos, but we're giving you the content, we're delivering it to you because this subject matters and it's something that deserves our attention. Are Democrats too soft on crime? Recently, with the stabbing of the poor Ukrainian refugee in Charlotte, there's been a lot of discussion about whether or not the killer should have been on the streets at all. Is it Democrats' policies that had let him roam the streets? Are Democrats too soft on crime? We're going to talk about it. We got some great guests to do so. We're going to start off by giving it to Counterpoints. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi guys. My name's Connor. I'm a science fiction political philosophy nerd, Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran, never Trump Republican. I would argue a real Republican, and I would argue in the affirmative that yes, Democrats are way too soft on crime. Now, if you look at the statistics over the past 20, 30 years, crime has been cut in half since the 1990s. But I think that that would be arguably because of the era of mass incarceration, which was viewed as a right wing, movement from the Democrats and from the Republicans in order to get crime under control. I would also argue that it's a crackdown on the war on drugs, which has been vilified for the past 3 decades. I would also argue that in 2020, we had the defund the police movement and a bunch of police justice reform that didn't go anywhere. And I would also argue that in Democratic cities and states like California, like New York, they've done cash bail reform. They've done, they at least argued for defund the police. And what this has done is optically, at minimum, it's given the appearance that Democrats love crime. They love it. It's their favorite thing in the world. So regardless of whether or not you think it's statistically true, it's absolutely the political perception.
Okay, thank you for being here. We'll get into it as we go. Next up, Liberal Cluck, please.
Yeah, so overall, I'd say Democrats are not too soft on crime. I'm sure there are some prosecutors or local politicians that you can pick out that have radical views and have done radical things that even like the average Democrat would probably disagree with, that has led to a rise in crime. But overall, the Democratic Party as a whole is not soft on crime at any level, from the president we elect down to the constituents they represent.
Okay, we'll get into it, I'm sure. Next up, we have North, please.
Hey, I'm North. I'm an ever Trump Republican. Basically, the Democratic Party has a legacy of being pretty soft on crime. They got a lot of very interesting policies with lighter sentencing, less policing, or even non-enforcement of certain crimes. I'm going to go over a lot of things like the no bail stuff that happened during COVID, the defund the police movement, the drug decriminalization, sentences being too lax, California Proposition 47, and the whole ACAB movement as well. So, yeah.
We'll get into it as we go. And last, certainly not least, Nuggles. Yeah, he's just driving, I guess, on the stream.
Yeah.
What you got for us, Nuggles?
Yeah. A terrible swing right there. I'm like 30 yards to the left of the green. Hello, everybody. My name is Nathaniel. I'm kind of ideologically all over the place. I don't think Democrats are necessarily soft on crime. I think that's a misnomer, and that Democrats are soft on certain kinds of crime. I think Democrats are soft on property crime, but I actually think Republicans are soft on crime in other regards, like school shootings, for instance. And that's all I got. I hope we have a spirited debate, everybody.
We will get into it as we go. And with that, the floor is open. If I interrupt you, please stop talking and allow me to ask my question or moderate the panel, whatever is needed to do. But other than that, go ahead.
Alrighty.
I can start. I think it's really interesting that both of the people arguing in the affirmative had as a part of their introduction that this is the perception of crime. Counterpoint, the perception is the Democrats are soft on crime. Counterpoints even said like whether or not the statistics agree, which maybe he has some statistics that may agree. But he's like whether or not you feel like the statistics agree, that's the perception of the Democrats, and I won't disagree that like the perception of the Democrats is that they are soft on crime. That's why we're having this panel today. But I don't think that like reality matches that.
Counterpoint. Connor, you want to get this or me?
Sorry, I was trying to go live on my end, and so I'm currently doing a loud musical intro, so I need you to...
Okay. In terms of the statistics, some of the things I can point to you is, there's a overall lowering of crime, not just in Democratic but also Republican states. I mean, this has just been a general trend that we've seen since I'd say the 60s. I'm pretty sure it's the 60s when I checked my or the 80s. That's what it was. It was the crime waves of the 80s. We've been on a general downward trend. We have to consider that why are businesses moving out of places like California, or why are they moving out of like Washington State or New York City? Can you explain that to me? When they literally say that the reasoning is like the vast amount of like stealing happening in their businesses, that they're unable to operate those areas anymore?
I'm sure that there probably are areas that are run by Democrats that have high rates of stealing as such. Democrats tend to run like the big cities, the more dense areas. I think that like the density of an area is more conductive of more predictive of whether or not there's going to be a lot of crime such as stealing. And also I think that there is a higher property crimes in areas where there's a mix of like high income and low income people close together. Proposition 47, which you brought up in your introduction, did decriminalize petty theft, and they didn't decriminalize it. It took it from a felony to a misdemeanor.
A felony to a misdemeanor, and then it was below a certain amount. I think it was like $950.
And I think that the crime rate of that kind of crime went up by like 7% during that time. It was passed like 2014.
Yes.
Recently, they have
Proposition 37
repealed it with 36. 47 was repealed with 36.
36.
And you got a mix of people who are against it because Proposition 47 wasn't like a soft on crime initiative. It was a trying to end the problem of mass incarceration. It sounds to me like at least Connor doesn't believe that like mass incarceration was a problem. But they were looking to solve the problem of mass incarceration, ended up with another problem and repealed it, which has Democratic support. And the very Democratic people of California also obviously supporting repealing it, which tells me that like they weren't trying to be soft on crime. They were trying to solve a problem and ended up with another problem, which was a higher crime rate. And now they have
they tried to solve that problem by just not putting people in jail, by not charging people with crimes.
Yeah, like, that's the issue.
That's kind of stupid, isn't it?
Not charging people with crimes. That is inherently being soft on crime. Would you not agree?
Well, yeah, in 2014, yes, they tried to solve a mass incarceration problem.
This is a 10-year period.
But like also through that time, you have things like Gavin Newsom deploying the crime suppression team across California, which led to over 9,000 arrests.
Recent development. That is a very recent development after an entire decade of this. Basically letting the criminals who should be in jail out of jail onto our streets in order to fix, like, you think that letting people who should be in jail out of jail is a better solution than mass incarceration? And you think that is contradictory or not contradictory to the Democrats being hard on crime? Like, I just don't see that at all.
Yeah, so Connor, did you want to say something before I started?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the steel man is that we should try to follow through with social services that decrease crime compared to incarceration, because oftentimes people who are incarcerated recidivize afterwards. But at the same time, like, that's where I would say it's incumbent upon Democrats to show us that these models work. The whole argument against mass incarceration was that you're putting people in jail effectively. Like, let's say that you have the misdemeanor felony amount was $300. Let's say that somebody steals an Xbox or a PlayStation, they get hit with a felony. They're stuck in jail or prison for 6 months. They have to go see a judge. They're on probation or parole for 2 years, et cetera, et cetera. And as a result, what ends up happening? Well, either a normal person who stole gets screwed over by the justice system in a way that isn't proportional to the crime, or you have somebody who, due to poverty or mental illness or drug addiction, they recidivize and they commit more crime. But my problem with this Democratic argument is that, like, okay, you released the guy, but you did not help him become a productive member of society. So then he went out and did more crime. So I applaud your intent, but I think we all know that the path to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah, I think
what are you gonna do? Like, hold on. Do you think the guy that stabbed that Ukrainian broad? Do you think he could have been rehabbed, or do you think he needed to be just put in a pit and buried for the rest of his life?
You think he should have been let out in general?
So he was mentally ill, so no, I don't think prior to the
you're
murder. Hold on.
You're making an argument
that
I want to answer it fully. That you could rehabilitate.
Hold on.
Okay.
I want to answer it fully.
So
you asked me if he should have been put into a pit prior to committing homicide. No, he should not have been put into a pit. But one of the things that I think that we could do, which we should be laughing at our grandparents about, is we should probably bring back, we increase the standard for mental hospitalization to immediate threat of death or great bodily harm to others, whereas the previous mental health standard was effectively, are they capable of taking care of themselves? And so there were shitloads of homeless people in public hospitals. But I borderline think that we need to bring public hospitals and mental institutions back.
Gotcha, because it sounded like you were making like a rehabilitative justice argument, which is what liberals do.
Well, I was trying to steal.
It's a way to say, yeah. I mean, fair enough.
Yeah.
I personally think that we just need to do more midnight basketball tournaments in the inner city and give all these kids boom boxes. I think that'll help fix some of this property crime we're seeing in these inner cities.
Okay, a non-meme answer. I can't tell if you're trying to encourage people to be like more criminal or less criminal. Are you saying like people need third spaces? What are you actually saying?
No, I'm just I'm filling in for Charlie here, so I'm making like a bad faith liberal argument because I honestly can't defend it. These people need to be put in jail forever. They're bad people.
You picked the worst liberal. He's playing golf and he's talking about incarcerating minorities.
All right, fine. I've got this 3v1. It's okay. So yeah, North, you said something about could you repeat the last point you made actually? Because I had a response to it, but then we went
out of like the whole list that I made, or the.
Yeah, okay. And are you asking me, or are you asking?
I'm asking North, and then I was going to address you. I've got something for you, and I've got that in front of my face. I don't remember exactly what North said that had me want to say something. So.
What are you talking about? Like my opener, or what I was just talking about before?
The last thing you said. You said something about it's definitionally soft on crime, and I don't remember what the rest was.
Well, how can okay, so you want to solve the problem of mass incarceration by basically prosecuting people less. How is that not definitionally soft on crime?
Well, I think my argument against that was that it was in 2014, and you said it took a decade. Yeah, that's what it was. You said it took a decade.
It took an entire decade for that to get repealed.
But like I would say that like a decade is probably not abnormal for us to like implement a policy and see if it was working. And I'm not even sure if like Prop 36 became a problem immediately. Do you know if it did or not, or if it was just like during COVID that we had massive property crimes going up?
Well, during COVID, that was even worse because that's when the Democratic legislators were experimenting with zero bail, and we saw crime massively skyrocket. I mean,
well, unless you can draw the line from like this person was out on bail, and we saw a massive increase in people who are out on bail committing more crimes, and like the bail thing isn't really relevant, I don't think. But maybe you have those stats.
No, I don't think we're gonna have those stats, and well, maybe we do. I don't know.
I don't
North
have
can
that
speak
stat
for
on hand.
himself.
Hold on, I'm getting it right
okay,
now.
but what I would argue, because I am a former law enforcement officer, is that you catch like 1% of property crimes. Okay, that's why people joke about like, oh, if I wanted a law enforcement officer, then I'll just wait 3 hours and file my report online because that's what the cops told me to do anyways. Because property crime is so normal, where people are just walking around in apartment complexes trying door handles in order to break into cars, or people are stealing packages off of the front doorstep, or they're burglarizing homes in the middle of the day, that you actually do just like you catch 1% of them. You catch like statistically, it's probably less than 1% of property crimes are solved.
Okay.
Is that the same in Democratic? Oh, go ahead.
No,
Mike.
no. Finish your point.
I'm sure the solve rate is probably approximately the same in different jurisdictions, regardless of political affiliation.
Okay.
So,
but that's what I'm saying is like so for instance, like I'll just use anecdotes to try to illustrate the statistical aggregate. Like for us, what would happen is we would have burglary rings. They would be half a dozen teenagers. They would have some adult who was giving them guidance on how to conduct burglaries. They would do burglaries for like 6 months. We would finally catch them in the act. Once we caught them in the act, if we could correlate them with fingerprints, or if they confessed to some of the crimes, or if we found a bunch of stolen property from other burglaries that they were trying to fence on like websites or whatever, then we would pin all those other crimes on them. But it would take 6 months to get them. And then after that, I'm sure that half of these kids, maybe they said, oh shit, I fucked up my life, I need to get my shit together. But I guarantee you half of those kids were like, this is my job now.
Okay.
Being a burglar and a drug dealer is my job.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in a little bit because 3v1s are fine, but let's make this a 3v2 a little bit. I'll put my thumb on the scale,
I
stealing
like
in
the
that
gang
side
bang.
a little bit, just to make it more interesting, just to make it a little better of a discourse. So I understand the argument that sometimes Democrats have had policies that have been a little bit soft on crime. That's fair. But when we look at the alternative, right? So you have to ask soft on crime compared to what? And then you look at the Republican Party. And basically you have a criminal administration in the White House that the Republicans refuse to do anything about. So while, yes, you can say and argue, perhaps, that Democrats are soft on petty crime, etc., property crime, etc., compared to what? Republicans who let pedophiles run the government?
The thing is,
Listen,
I don't think anybody here supports Trump.
Yeah,
though,
I was
so.
going to say we can criticize the policies of the Democratic Party, but that doesn't mean that we're endorsing the alternative, which is the Trump administration.
Well, you are kind of by default, right? If you are arguing that Democrats are too soft on crime, you have to ask compared to what? And compared to the other party. The only other viable party right now are the Republicans. So again,
who are under the cult of Trump. The only problem, though, is that you invited the only two
never
Trump
Republicans
in existence.
Yeah, I'm trying here, gang. Okay, I want some discourse.
I got this. So I did want to respond to Connor when he said something about the steel man is that Democrats want to have a more, I'm going to phrase it differently, a holistic view of criminal justice, which is absolutely true. Democrats have a more holistic view of criminal justice. They want to try and prevent crime by helping people become more economically viable and use programming to change criminal mindsets and all this stuff. And he says to show me where these initiatives work. I'm a counselor for a prison in Virginia, and I can speak anecdotally, just from my experience, that I have seen these initiatives work, where some people come in, they're the biggest shitheads you'll ever meet in your life, and after the programming and stuff, they calm down. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes it takes just getting old and being tired of being in jail, but also like just more like of a broader aspect. You got the Houston's One Safe Houston initiative, which included a heightened police presence, passed by a Democrat, that included more police on the streets, but also a mobile outreach to help with mental health.
Can I tell you what this debate really is?
Can I ask something real quick? I got something important to ask because I asked it to Counterpoints earlier. Mr. Liberal guy, do you think that guy that stabbed that poor Ukrainian girl could have been rehabilitated? Do you think that's a guy that you let back onto the streets?
So that guy, there was a failure in one of two areas. That's either a failure in the police that he called in January to recognize a mental health crisis when it was right in front of their face, or a failure of North Carolina or the localities, to, depending on whose responsibility it is, to have the mental health infrastructure for the police when they're responding to something like that to be able to
I'm going to tell you it's the latter. I'm going to tell you it's the latter already, because effectively, like, listen, 4 years on the fucking street, okay, or at least 3 years on the street. Whenever I incarcerated someone for a mental health crisis, what ended up happening was they were out within 48 hours with a new prescription for medication that they weren't forced to take. And so effectively, all they do is they stabilize the person to the point that they will say they're not going to kill themselves or not hurt somebody else. And then as soon as they say they're not going to kill themselves or not hurt somebody else, a psychiatrist writes them a prescription and then kicks them out onto the street. That's like the current standard of care in the United States.
Yeah, and this guy was literally begging for help. Like in January, as soon as January, he was begging for help.
And he reached out for help by stabbing a Ukrainian refugee.
No. He reached out for help by calling. He reached out for help by calling 911 and saying,
"Whose team are you on? What is your?"
It's fine because he's making y'all look bad. It's what he's doing. But yeah, he reached out for help.
I'm not one of these guys.
This would be like a conservative talking point. Would be like, fuck the poor, fuck the homeless. Like that's
okay. Yeah,
that should be my talking point.
Fuck them. Yeah,
he reached out by help, but he reached out for help by calling 911 and saying there was man-made materials in him controlling his actions. That right there should have been like a clue that like this guy needed to be instituted somewhere. I wouldn't say.
Hold on. That is an argument for being harder on crime.
No, because
and it's not hard enough.
It's not an argument for being harder on crime because the crime he committed was abusing 911. It's an argument for better mental health institutions. And Connor even hold on, I'll get to that. I can get to that. I've got all that. So and Connor even just said that it's probably that they don't even have the institutions for these people, which is probably what needs to be fixed in that one situation at least. How many other crimes did he commit? Let me find it right here. There was 14 arrests. Not all of them led to convictions. Most of them are misdemeanors.
Because of a fucking liberal DA, dumbass.
Okay. Here's a question for you: Is being able to forcefully incarcerate someone because of like they're having mental health issues? Do you consider that being harder or softer on crime?
Well, I don't think that you should have to commit a crime in order to.
Do you consider that being harder or softer on crime?
I don't think
you say that this person needs to be detained in like a mental facility because they're crying for help or whatever, right?
Which is fundamentally different than the criminal justice system in my mind.
I think that could be
different than the liberal justice system. Is that what you're saying?
No, just fundamentally different than the criminal justice. Just to me, that's
criminal. I think the liberal justice system.
No, the criminal justice system. What did you say, Connor? Did you agree or disagree with me?
No. I fuck it. I'll change teams and I'll come onto your side. Okay.
God.
Oh no.
This is such a
because
the
guy playing golf keeps being like, yeah, fuck homeless people. Let's kill them all.
We should just roll die, if you're on even or odd, depends on what team you're on,
Yeah, so hold on. So no, I don't think one of the things when I was in law enforcement was that I try to ask myself, like, what is the law enforcement purpose served here? And so incarcerating a schizophrenic for being schizophrenic in a jail cell does not somehow magically solve mental health issues. If anything, it can exacerbate it, right?
But
so hold on, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet, golf schizo. I'm not done yet, golf schizo. Thank you. I'm gonna start calling law enforcement on you to take you to an insane asylum. I'm not done. I'm not done.
Can you stop being rude?
No, you were rude to the other guy. You can't throw elbows and then say, "Oh, I need to be polite." No, I'm finishing a point.
Okay,
thanks.
well, why don't you keep?
I'm finishing a point. Thanks. I'm talking. I'm finishing a point. Thanks. You can stop talking at any moment, and then I'll go ahead and finish my point. Okay.
Let counterpoints go. Let counterpoints go.
I'm waiting.
Thanks. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Are you mad?
What we should do is Yes, I'm mad. Please shut up.
Okay.
So what we should do is we should increase the standard of care. Or we should lower the ability in order to institutionalize somebody. The standard that I think used to be set was, can this person care for themselves? But the problem was that was a very broad net that institutionalized a lot of people at great public expense. And in the 80s, there was a propagandistic effort in order to deinstitutionalize these people. A famous film from this movement was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where they end up lobotomizing somebody who probably didn't deserve to be lobotomized. And public hospital stories about like abuse and mistreatment and all that kind of stuff was very common at the time. But what I would argue is that in the day of body cameras, cell phones, video cameras, all that kind of stuff, we can probably improve substantively the quality of public hospitals in the modern era.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Connor on that. I've in my prison we have an acute ward, which is specifically for people who have these kind of issues, and they are absolutely not able to be on the street, and for the people around them to be safe. But we don't treat these people like they used to in the 80s. When we got rid of all of the mental hospitals, because there was a lot of abuse and there was a lot of mistreatment. We treat them with respect as humans, and we have the ability to lock them down should they need to be locked down when they're having those episodes. But we also have the ability to let them out when they're not having those episodes, let them have a little bit of dignity in life. And I think that we need something like that on a mass scale.
Can I ask you a question?
Give it to Golf Guy. Golf Guy, go ahead.
Hey,
Golf Guy.
I waited my turn. Do you think it's dignified for them to let a guy out of jail and then let him sleep in the streets covered in his own poop and pee? Do you think that's more dignified than being put in a mental institution? Because I do not think it's more dignified. I actually think that's bad, okay? I don't think we should have people on the street sleeping in their own poop and pee, okay?
Yeah, we just argued to the opposite. We just argued for institutionalization with a higher standard of care.
He just said that they should be let back out.
Institutionalization. Are you arguing that that's being harder or softer?
Okay, when I said hold on.
Hold on. Stop. Let Golf Guy finish his rant. Go ahead.
I'm done.
Okay. All right, so Golf Guy, you're confused as to what I meant by let out. So I meant like let out within the institution. So we can lock them down. We have a cell for them. If they're having those schizo episodes, if they're being violent, we can lock them down and restrain them in a way that keeps themselves and others safe. But when they're not having those episodes, when they're acting calmly and productively, we can let them out like within the institution still. But they get like rec time, and they get to watch TV in the day room and do things that they would be able to do if they were out.
Okay, so you're arguing for they should be institutionalized over being let out onto the streets.
Yeah, well, I think he's also arguing because I'm betraying you, North, right now. Well, I think he's arguing that institutionalization is preferable to incarceration. And I'll go ahead and admit that this is true as well, because if you take an insane person like the schizophrenic from the bus that stabbed that lady to death, and you put them into an incarceral position, if they have untreated schizophrenia, if they had untreated mania, if they have any of that kind of stuff, then they're not just a danger to themselves. They're a danger to other inmates. They're a danger to inmate staff. Officer staff, they're in danger to everyone.
Well, so I'm not necessarily disagreeing with
in a medical situation, you would basically be trying to treat them as human beings, get them drugs, get them stabilized, all that kind of stuff. Whereas in an incarceration situation, if somebody pipes up, you beat the shit out of them. So it's obviously a different setting.
But okay, the problem is that forcing someone to remain even in a medical, I guess you could call it medical, even though it's some sort of institution.
Yeah, institutionalization.
Yeah, that instead of releasing them on the streets, I feel like that's taking the hard-on crime route and not the soft-on crime route.
It probably is, but if I was trying to win this argument on behalf of liberal cluck, I would argue that institutionalization is a civil procedure rather than a criminal procedure. Therefore, it's not technically criminal. Therefore, it's not technically hard-on crime.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known any of that, but I would have just been like, it is a fundamentally different thing. Because like you can institutionalize somebody with mental health issues before they even commit a crime. You have to wait until they commit the crime to institutionalize somebody for criminal proceedings. So like,
I think you're saying incarcerate.
Incarcerate. Incarcerate. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, we should use two different terms. When we're talking about people being put into a mental health asylum or a mental health hospital, we're talking about institutionalization. When we're talking about somebody being in prison for a crime, we're talking about incarceration. And also, that's a flexibility that institutionalization has that incarceration doesn't. I think liberal cluck is largely right. You can't incarcerate people until largely after they've committed a crime, whereas with institutionalization, it's a preventative measure.
Go ahead.
Okay, but how are you determining whether someone should be able to be institutionalized or not?
You have mental health professionals to help you with that.
Well, and
So,
not just
is
that,
it
but
purely
the
a mental
current-
health professional is going to determine whether someone's going to be forced into an institution or not, or is it going to be because I would assume could perhaps like a judge also be the one that
Or
would
a
be,
cop.
or a cop as well. So if it's a cop or a judge, then even though that they might not be ending up in an incarceration setting, using a cop or a judge to send a crazy person and forcing them to remain in an institution, I don't know. That just sounds hard on crime to me. And
Listen.
yeah,
we could be pedants, and by the way, like Liberal Cluck, if you want to be a pedant, then I'll back you up in your pedantry.
Okay.
However, I'll agree. Okay, so what I'll agree to is the fact that you're using law enforcement and you're using judges in order to eliminate somebody's freedom, and you're also probably preventing crime. Okay. But what I would say is that from the argumentative side, from the liberal progressive
Also,
side,
just real quick,
is
thank you,
that
Pisco Raiders.
institutionalization is preferable to incarceration, and a lot of Republicans and a lot of conservatives, they just want to incarcerate everybody.
Yeah, and one big difference is that a judge is making the when he's sending a criminal to jail, he's making the determination, did he commit a crime. When he's sending somebody somebody who's got mental health issues to a institution, he's taking the advice of experts and mental health professionals in order to just determine if this guy is able to in the old days take care of himself, or in the new days going to present a danger to himself or others.
Can I make a pedantic point real quick?
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
I think we should say the name of the lady who was murdered, even though that's like gay and lefty to do. I don't know how to pronounce her name though, because I don't speak Ukrainian. It's like Irina
Zarutska.
Zarutska.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
There you go. I feel better now.
Also, like
Okay.
if you are trying to like use the criminal justice system to put away people that would have these issues, you're probably going to start making laws that's criminalizing a bunch of misdemeanors overly harshly, or you're going to be making laws that is that's not going to be effective at getting these people
now
off
I
the
get to
street.
do my chud Republican bona fides. Okay, listen, I'm perfectly okay with incarcerating with people for property crime. As a matter of fact, $300 was the standard for felonies in the state of Florida. I think that perverse incentive Californians who were trying to do the right thing by bumping up the felony level to $950 or $1,000, all they did was they created perverse incentives for shoplifting. And here's the other thing too. This goes back to why Democrats are soft on crime. There was this perfect video, which I absolutely loved, which was in Orange County, California. And there was somebody who was getting arrested and they were like, hey, can I get a court date? And the sheriff was like, no, you're going to jail. And they're like, wait.
I've seen that video.
Shoplifting is a court date. And the sheriff is like, you're not in Los Angeles City. You're in LA County. Fuck you. Turn your hands around and put your hands behind your back and turn around. And so that's the kind of thing where like, yeah, I'm trying to steel man Liberal Cluck, but I would argue that liberal and progressive DAs set up those perverse incentives.
And then hold on, you're coming into this argument saying that Democrats are not soft on crime, but then when bringing up
anymore
prosecuting people for incarcerating people for misdemeanors, you're then taking the argument of, well, they're going to be overly prosecuting people or incarcerating people for misdemeanors. So you're taking the argument that they should be softer and not harder.
So there is hold on. There is not prosecuting people for misdemeanors, and then there's overly prosecuting for people for misdemeanors. If you were to have prosecuted this guy, if you were to have given him the time needed to keep him from stabbing that woman, you would have had to have given him let me see. He was arrested 3 times in 2022, 2024. He didn't even get a charge. He served 5 years in prison for already for robbery. So you would have had to given him 5 years, 21. You would have had to given him like 20 years for robbery in order to prevent him from being on the street. In order right?
And that's where I was going to say, like,
done then.
For me, I think strong arm robbery, especially if you do it with a weapon or whatever, I think that 100% should carry like a super serious sentence, like 5 or 10 years.
100%.
Well, he got 5 years. No, he got 5 years.
5 years
right,
for
but
he served all of it.
That's probably because the system is swamped.
Do we-
and that's
hold
like
on.
another argument.
Do we think 5
From
years,
the-
just real quick on this, do we think 5 years is sufficient for armed robbery in general?
Well, is it armed is my question.
So he was charged with robbery with a dangerous weapon, which means ultimately he had a
Then
weapon.
yeah, dude.
But
that's
wait.
like, that's like
He
10.
was convicted for robbery.
Sure, but that always happens. There's a negotiation between the state attorney's office and the defense attorney where they say
they're willing to give up years of incarceration in order just to get a conviction.
So, he got 5 years, which if we're going by the system that we have, like 5 years, you just said was or do you think 20 years would have been better? Like,
well, hold on. Then we get into the actual heart of the problem though, which is logistics. Because like as you said, some people can get into psych programs and they can be reformed into not recidivizing, but also some people just age out of criminality. And I think one of the frustrations for law enforcement and for field social workers is that they feel like for every person that they save, there's 99 people who just age out of criminality because they're 50 years now. They're 50 years old now and they can't fucking strong arm robbery people anymore. So that's where for me. But then this puts it's incumbent upon the conservatives, right? If the system is going to be, let's just lock people up and throw away the key. I'm sorry, we already have the largest carceral population on the fucking planet, larger than China. Are we willing to spend trillions of dollars in order to incarcerate the world's largest population? I mean, my answer is yes.
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 Okay.
Yeah,
but wait,
the answer is yes.
So, I talked about the Safe Houston initiative as a response to something that Connor brought up earlier, where he was like, "You got to show that these initiatives work." The results of that, and it may not just be this initiative that caused this; it could just be the changing tides of crime over time that we've just seen naturally happen in the country. But rape cases went down by 19%, murders down by 8%, which there was already a low murder rate there. Robbery down 9.1%.
From what year to what year, though? Just out of curiosity.
Since
I'd have
when,
to.
yeah.
I'd have to click on that and actually read the article.
Well, then why are you bringing up that statistic?
Hold on,
That
you'd
doesn't
have
make
to
sense.
click on it
I
and
got those
actually
statistics
read
from
the article.
Well, no, I read the. Okay, listen. This is the way I did it. I read the article. I took notes, and I'm reading off my notes right now. I didn't have what year to what year on my notes, so I got my notes from the article.
The most important
I did
part of the statistic.
Okay, but Mr. Golf Man,
here.
It was
crime
launched in February
general
2022.
has been cut in half in the past 30 years.
Yeah, so it was launched in February of 2022. So
we're
February
actually we are at crime levels comparable to the 1950s and 1960s, which are generally thought of as the most peaceful times in American history.
Yeah, so this initiative was launched in 22. The article was written in 23. So my guess would be it's from 21 to 23. So 2021 to 2023 is where these.
See, but for me, that would be a COVID drop where we're dropping back to pre-COVID levels of crime.
Yeah,
possibly. I did say that at first. That it's possible that is a part of it.
Right.
And then we have
the point that I'm trying to make though is that I like that Mr. Golf Guy North and I all agreed when we were like, well, are we willing to pay for institutionalization and incarceration? And all three of us were like, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that this is
because it's immoral to just kill them.
And
well, right.
Again,
hold
one that
on,
will say
what?
yes, and you're the one that's willing to say no. So.
Hold on.
Me?
No,
Well,
keep in mind.
Yeah, you're the one representing the Democratic side.
Well, it's not about the money for me. It's about I'm arguing
it's about finding the right solution.
Yeah, I'm arguing that. So what the right solution is for crime is probably going to be different from place to place, in my opinion. Now, I'm trying to argue with the Democrats as a whole, but I can give you my opinion real quick. What the right solution is going to be. There's some places that probably do need more police on the streets. There's some places that probably do need longer times for their sentencing. So post pre 36 California might be one of those situations. But there's also situations where there's also probably places where in order to tap down crime, you need more social programs and you need more economic opportunity. You need more mental health.
More basketball at midnight and more boom boxes.
Well, I mean, that's not what it is. You're just being stupid. But more.
Well, what is it then? What are these social services that crime?
It depends on.
He's memeing, but I accept his meme. correct me if I'm wrong, but the basketball at midnight is an argument for, it could be a straw man, but it's an argument for third spaces, which is effectively like one of the problems with our current urban design is that if you have a park and the lights are shot out and there's no place for teenagers to go in the middle in after school in order to engage in pro-social behavior, then they engage in antisocial behavior. And I think that's absolutely true. And we should consider urban design as a part of our multi-pronged holistic strategy to attack crime. He might be being sarcastic. I'm not.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's also.
But I think a fundamental part of that is
to prevent crime.
You can't just fund the social services, though. You need the police there. You need to have the hard issues there, and that should be the emphasis that I think Democrats are not putting enough effort into. They're focusing too much on the social services and not enough on the how should I
listen? But we have a different mandate. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of easier to be a right-wing guy because we only have to appeal to like, middle class and working class whites. Whereas with no offense to Democrats and liberals, you have to appeal to Asians, you have to appeal to blacks, you have to appeal to Hispanics, you have to appeal to this like broad coalition. And so if you say, yeah, hang them high, fuck them all, let's all send them to jail and shit, that might pull well with 5 white guys on Twitch and YouTube politics, but that's not going to pull well in the inner city.
That argument doesn't make any sense though, because like, that's discounting that Trump won more of like the Latino and black vote than any like previous modern American
like
president.
3 to 5%, and he went from like 8% to 12% with black folks.
Yeah,
that's still 88%
nothing, though, is
going
it?
against
That's
Republicans.
not nothing. That shows like a shift in the zeitgeist amongst minorities, and I think that these minorities are starting to get pretty fucking sick of
ultimately
they're getting sick of the fucking community. Their communities being fucking shitholes.
Sure. Listen, I'm with you there, and I hope it's a sign of
I'm not going back
good.
to the hood, dude. Fuck no. If I make money, I'm getting the fuck out.
So I agree with as a liberal who votes Democrat. I consider myself progressive, but votes Democrat. I agree with North when he says that like you can't just do the social services stuff too. You need the police. You need them to act as a deterrent. You need some sort of sentencing to act as a deterrent. And you also need some sort of sentencing to force these people to even engage with the system in a way that's going to help reform them. And you know who else agrees with that we do need these things? Joe Biden and the 2024 Democratic platform. So defund the police was nowhere to be found in that platform. I don't even think it was found in the 2020 platform either. They passed the America Rescue Plan, which included $15 billion for public safety and violence prevention, which Detroit used more than $100 million for public safety. Milwaukee invested $40 million. Philadelphia invested $45 million to upgrade cities' crime labs, reduce gun violence, and investigate and prosecute violent gun crimes.
I'm a Twitch and YouTube politics old head, though. Okay, so this Jedi voodoo might work on like younger Twitch and YouTube politics people, but I'm just going to tell you, in 2019, when I first got out of law enforcement, which feels like fucking forever ago, Faraday Speaks, another ancient Twitch poll old head, asked me to debate Mike from PA on reform the police, and I'll just tell you. Like, it's hard to memory hold that time and space because from 2019 to 2021, we were effectively in like an online fever dream where the online left was arguing that shoplifting's not that bad. These people have insurance. Human life is worth more than property.
It's
Black
worth noting
lives matter. All cops are bastards.
Wait, Connor.
Okay, the fact that the Democrats were willing to even
hold on, Mike. Hold on. I just need to say this real quick, North. Mike from PA is not the Democrats. Okay,
not a
these
Democrat.
online
Exactly.
leftist
They didn't
weirdos,
vote for Democrats.
He
not Democrats. Okay.
was
that doesn't
fucking
matter because the
loud, and
elected
he's
Democrat
comparably relevant.
But the Democratic Party, when it came, maybe not Mike from PA.
Look at what Kamala Harris was saying in 2020. Come on.
Okay, maybe not Mike from PA as like an individual, but if you look at like the things that were being pushed into sort of like the mainstream Democratic narrative, they weren't actively saying no. All cops are bastards, defund the police. We're not going to actively disavow that. They were completely silent on that. They were willing to indulge those things.
Biden did, and so did my hopefully future governor Abigail Spanberger. She went in on the defund the police initiative because she felt like they almost made her lose the election.
Right. But then that's where, okay, so maybe this is where we should be white pilled that, like, as you know, people who are quote unquote center right. And by the way, this is the opposite of a Twitch and YouTube panel that I experienced in 2020 or 2021. So I got to say, this is one of the most refreshing political experiences of my life.
Oh, you're
However,
welcome.
what what I'm saying though is that what it seems like happened was the left was pushing super hard for soft on crime bullshit through the popular culture zeitgeist, even if they didn't instantiate it in policy. Then they lost, and then now they're swinging back to some level of normalcy. That's what this feels like. It doesn't feel like a wholehearted Democrats are taking a holistic look at crime and changing their minds. It seems like they got their shit kicked in at the polls, and so now they're saying the right things.
Maybe. I mean, regardless, the prompt that I prepared for was, "Are Democrats soft on crime?" And that's what I came in here on. And like in
Sure.
2014, you might have been able to argue when Prop 36 came up that California Democrats were soft on crime, which are like our furthest left Democrats in the country, by the way. And like that's. And you can point to like individual prosecutors and DAs to do this and do that, but there's like literally thousands of those fuckers in this country. There's hold on. I've actually. I mean, this is a newer one that he just won out against his opponent. But Nathan Hochman said this about retail crime. Retail theft isn't petty. It affects jobs, safety, and viability of neighborhoods, businesses. The LAPD is committed to making Los Angeles a place where retailers feel secure and communities can thrive. The business owners, we hear you, and we are acting to repeal offenders. Now, like you said, that's a newer person.
Listen, I'm so happy. I'm so happy to hear a Democrat in a prominently Democratic city say that shit. I'm just going to say that I'm going to have a bad taste in my mouth probably for 2 or 3 years, just because that's how long I was in the fucking trenches saying that this policy was stupid as shit.
But you weren't.
And so
Counterpoints.
I mean, he's just saying that as a Thermidorian reaction. It's like, it's arguable whether or not he actually believes that policy, or if he still believes in like the grander like scheme of defunding the police and like, I don't know what
he was
the
a
end
supporter
result
of Prop. He's a supporter of Prop 36. He actually butts head with Gavin Newsom on this. He was a supporter of Prop 36.
Wait, is Gavin Newsom against Prop 36?
Yeah, so Gavin Newsom is against Prop 36 because he believes it's going to start mass incarceration again. But he's also for deploying like thousands of people. I don't want to say thousands. I actually don't have the number. But he's for deploying more police on the streets. He has a different way of trying to deal with crime. That's not even just like social services. He wants police on the streets in high crime areas as a deterrent.
But what is the point of deploying police if you can't keep them in your jails because you can't charge them with real crimes?
So they're a deterrent. So this is a statistic I heard.
like
this is a
Windows theory, right?
Yeah. So this is a thing that I heard a long time ago. I don't know how true it rings, but it's not the amount of time you can get for a crime that deters crime. It's the likelihood that you're going to get caught that deters crime. So when you have more police on the street, you're going to be able to deter crime much more effectively. That's why the LAPD or the National Guard being on the streets of DC was able to deter crime, because you make it more likely that you're going to get caught doing crime. So yeah.
No, I mean, I can back him up on this. There's one of the greatest articles that I've ever read. It's an NPR article, and it's like, what is the true effect of an actual police officer? And so they found that when you add, I think it's like for every police officer or something like that, violent crime drops by like 0.17%, or homicides drop by 0.17%. And so effectively, it took like 3 or 4 additional officers in order to drop the homicides by 1 in your city. But when you consider the actuarial analysis of the value of a human life, this is actually extremely like financially effective. And so, yeah, like I could understand that you don't have to incarcerate people in order to reduce crime. And by the way, anecdotally, I was a patrolman. I was a patrolman for 3 years, and lazy patrolmen, shitty patrolmen went to the Walgreens parking lot, sat there for 6 hours and watched Hulu and Netflix, and then they left their zone unpatrolled, and then the zone the next day had a bunch of burglaries. Whereas I drove on the same streets over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. I was basically hitting the same streets every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes. And as a result, I would have no burglaries the next day. So that's where, like, it's not just whether or not you have a police officer, it's whether or not they're doing their fucking jobs.
Yeah.
And how they're doing their jobs.
Similar experiences inside the facility too, inside your prisons. If you have a corrections officer there, they're not going to do the shit that they usually do to break the rules or whatever. But if you have a shitty corrections officer in the building, they just go buck ass wild.
Yep. It's like having a substitute teacher in your school. Like, that's ironically what it is. It's having a teacher who's like long in the tooth and super salty, who knows what's going on and knows all the bullshit that the students are going to pull, versus having a substitute teacher that's just going to let the students run buck wild because they're trying to get a paycheck. It's unironically the same thing.
A question for the panel. Should the judges, bureaucrats, etc., everyone who is responsible for the man who killed Irina Zarutska being out of custody, right? Being on the streets, on that train, should they be held accountable to any degree?
No, you're going to destroy the entire justice system if you start doing that kind of shit.
Yeah.
If you try to do like Minority Report thought crime bullshit, where you hold people like civilly responsible for the crimes of other people, then what's going to happen is you're going to have a perverse incentive where every judge and every cop is going to keep every single person in jail or prison. That way they're not civilly responsible for it. So no, that's a perverse incentive as well.
I might be able to answer this in a way that could cause a little bit of disagreement. Like the issue that they had with that judge was that she let him out without cashless bail, right? That's the issue.
I mean, we could argue it hypothetically, even if that wasn't individually true.
Go ahead.
Well, so in 2025, January 2025, he was arrested for a third time misusing 911. It's a misdemeanor, and the judge let him out on cashless bail. The right phrases it as they let him out with a promise written on a note. But that's standard operating procedure for when you get arrested for a misdemeanor, a non-violent misdemeanor. So people were calling for the judge who did that to go to jail, because if he was in jail, then the lady wouldn't died, which is true. If
that's like, then I feel bad for the judge too, because what is she supposed to do? She's supposed to incarcerate every homeless person in perpetuity. That's not fair either.
Yeah.
And that, by the way, that's not even fair to the fucking homeless people either. And trust me, like, dude, I've been covered in shit. I've been covered in piss. I've been covered in blood. Listen, there's nobody who fucking dislikes homeless people. No, I don't dislike them intrinsically, but there's nobody who has more reason to dislike homeless people than I do. But at the same time, 90% of them are drug addicts with mental health issues who are just trying to survive, who are begging for food and for water and for shelter, who just stay in that food, water, and shelter until they get kicked out. That's 99% of homeless people. 99% of homeless people are not murderers.
I agree that 99%.
I think you got those numbers backwards.
I think 99% of homeless people are not murderers. I've had a come to Jesus moment with the homeless. I do not know how desperate they are for food and shelter, because I believe that those things are available in most big cities, and they're just not taking it for one reason or another.
So
I'll tell you, I've met a lot of fat homeless people. I'll tell you that.
Sure. Let me ask this. Do the homeless within an area make that area intrinsically more dangerous or less safe for the residents of that area?
Okay,
yes.
I've got something to say about this, actually. I just finished the front nine, and I'm going to play the back nine. I'm in a major liberal city playing a municipal city course, and on the 14th hole, there's a caravan of homeless people that watch you take your drive, and they'll cheer for you, actually. So I actually don't hate the homeless that much for that reason, even though they are stinky and poopy and covered in their own shit and piss. Yeah.
I mean, Yeah, I think
statistically, homeless people are going to make an area more
Yes.
dangerous. But that's one of the things. Like I'm telling you, this conversation is fucking surreal because I remember like 3 or 4 years ago where what was it? Vosh was like chastising his chat because he was like, "Oh, you guys are a bunch of pussies when it comes to homeless people. They're all chill. They're all super cool. They add to the flavor of a neighborhood." And I was like, what the fuck are you talking
That's
about?
insane.
And this was like accepted as like bear in mind, I'm sure like most liberals are like, what the fuck are you talking about? But within the lefty congregation, because I basically view him as like an apocalyptic, apocalypse preacher. Within his own community, they were like, "Oh yeah, homeless people they add to the flavor. They add to the charm of an inner city."
I'll stay behind.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I think I'm playing a few balls.
I think the left's mistake was letting people
I get it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Control the online narrative, because the people like Joe Biden and the establishment of the Democrats did not really believe in like alternative media until they saw themselves get their asses whooped in 2024 by the online media president. So yeah, I think,
but then that's like a whole nother thing though, because you're talking about perception being reality, and this is another thing that I think Democrats are going to have to. By the way, you can blame North, okay? If it sounds like in this conversation I'm letting Democrats like paddle in their own canoe without trying to save them too much, it's because of North. We had a conversation last week. He was like, "Stop trying to be a liberal. Stop trying to be a Democrat. Be a never Trump Republican. There's more of us than you think. Fuck the liberals." So this is actually really refreshing for me. But at the same time, here's your problem. I get to do this again. I get to say it's your problem, not my problem, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Here's your problem. You have a broad coalition, including leftists like Hassan Piker and like Vosh. You have schizo liberals like Destiny. And so as a result, the right wing is using the propaganda of these online creators with which to beat you with a cudgel, and you do not have the capacity to control them. And so I don't know what the fuck y'all should do in order to try to reel these people in.
I don't think it's the capacity to control them that we need. We need the capacity to control the narrative, because you guys also have your crazies. You have those people that were sitting there chanting "Whites fight back" after the Charlie Kirk assassination. And
yeah,
like
North. That's your fault.
You think this is? I don't. Fuck them. But
yeah, you have those people, but they don't make it to the broader narrative. And I mean, January 6th people did make it to the broader narrative. Trump pardons
even
those.
if they do, we don't hold them to account the same way that the left wing gets held to account in electoral politics.
And it's
for our crazies. Yeah, for our crazies, we just go, "Oh, that's crazy. A Fox News host said, let's euthanize all the homeless people. That guy's crazy. Yep. Don't worry about him." And that's the way the right wing treats our alt media and our schizophrenic mainstream media. Whereas I think you guys are held to account.
And not only that, your crazies vote for your guy now. Our crazies don't even vote for our people. Like we get all of the hate that our crazies cause without the benefit of having their audience vote for us.
Our crazies, they vote for our guy, and they all vote for him for different reasons. And it's the endless,
and some of them are opposite.
It's the endless justifications. There's no actual ideological or principles or anything involved. It's just vibes. That's it. Trump will win an election. Well, he's someone that was most likely to win an election. That's the only reason why they voted for him. It's the only reason why they'll cover for him too.
So, if we all agree, which we did, right, that homeless people make an area more dangerous, what policies should be put into place to solve this problem? Or is it just something we need to just learn to deal with? What is the solution?
I'm okay. I can give a simple answer. I think we've heard a lot of counterpoints talk. The answer would be to kick them out, to say, "Hey, you can't camp here. Hey, you got this this RV set up here. You've been parked here for a week. You need to go. You needed to go 6 days ago." Like here in my beautiful liberal West Coast city, we have like a 2-tiered justice system, where if I get pulled over and my tags are expired, I gotta pay my tags. If some guy like with a Breaking Bad like meth van gets pulled over, he is not paying his tags, so they don't even like ask him to. Like that needs to end. These people need to be kicked out and put somewhere else. You know, like here in the West Coast, every city has this myth that like, oh, they bus in homeless people from wherever. Oh, yeah, Idaho buses in all the homeless people in Oregon. Oh, here in Hawaii, all the homeless people are they're flown in from California because they haven't built a bridge yet or anything. But yeah, it's stupid, and they need to go somewhere else because they can't be in my yard with their tents. I don't like it. I pay a lot in property taxes, and I'm not getting what
Yeah,
I'm
but
putting into the system.
okay, but this isn't policy. Okay, this is what's called GBPSE. It's a cop term. I live in a nice neighborhood. GBPSE is go be poor somewhere else. Okay, and so like when they're trespassing a homeless person for the 7th time, that like a cop will look to another cop and they'll be like GBPSE, lol. So the point is that like no. So for the truly schizophrenics, you need the institutionalization. For the actual like homeless people who are dealing with institutional problems, chronic homelessness, food insecurity, housing insecurity, all that kind of stuff, we got to build new cities, bro, or we got to rebuild the dead cities. Like Detroit, Detroit is doing a whole bunch of rehabs of all their dead properties, right? We need to rebuild these cities into communities that are worth living in. We need to build shitloads of housing. We need to be smart about urban design, and we need to build communities that are worth living in.
Well, I've actually let me push back on you real quick because like I get that you're an ex-cop. I'm an ex-crust punk, actually, believe it or not, and I know that a lot of these crust punks that are homeless in the streets are entirely homeless because of their own volition. It's like
Sure.
they cut off their entire family, so now they don't have like a couch to surf on. They have no friends because all their friends are either poor or drug addicts or have already died. So what do we do with these people that choose to live on the street? Because here in my beautiful West Coast city, we have so many social services for homeless people. But guess what? They don't get used because people would rather sleep in their RV and shoot fent and smoke meth. So what do we do
Yeah,
about that?
For those, I agree that GBPSE might be the best thing. Like
no,
really,
I don't think
sorry.
GBP SE is the best thing for them. I think that actually having like a holistic um system to help people that have drug issues.
Like what? Can you
He's
He's
elaborate
saying
on
they
that,
don't
please?
want help.
They don't
Well-
want help because they'd rather do drugs.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean
because
that is
look, we have not I guess institutions, processes for people who are homeless in order to get them back on their feet. But the problem is
Yeah.
that most of them require that you have to like give up on drugs, or at least like try to give up on drugs.
exactly.
Which
You should.
yes,
I'm
they
an
should.
ex-addict myself.
Like that
You
should
have to
be
fucking give it up.
that should be the goal, is to get them to completely give up on drugs. And if you let them indulge in something like that, I don't think that necessarily
So
helps.
then would you advocate
Well,
for
hold
these policies that we see in like Portland, Seattle,
So-
Kensington,
Yeah.
where we have open air drug use? Is that
Can
good
I,
or
no.
is that bad?
I don't agree with open air drug use. What I agree with, and you probably will disagree with this, and just a little bit more background on me. I work at a prison. I am the substance use counselor at the prison that I work at. The people who are in the thralls of substance use addiction, they don't want to be in the thralls of it overall. It's just that when those times come to quit and you start getting sick, you start having all those traumas come back that you haven't figured out. You don't have the coping skills to deal with. You're on the street, so things are worse than ever. And taking that shot of fentanyl or heroin or whatever it may be, it just makes all the pain go away. Then they usually choose to do that. And my solution to that would be like not open air use, but like safe use sites. We accept that these people are.
Hold on. I'm actually going to back him up because I know this is where the conservatives would normally jump down his throat and say, fuck you. But Switzerland actually has a really impressive model. And Switzerland has a free use injection site. But the free use injection site, they don't give you enough of a dose to get high. What they do is they give you enough of a dose to stave off cravings while they're partnering with social services in order to reintegrate you back into society. And so it's kind of like a horse to water thing. So for Mr. Golfer, I would say that if they're like, well, fuck that, I want to get high, I want to do whatever I want to do. well, then fuck you, GBPSE. However, if there's somebody like our Mr. Counselor friend over here who's saying like, hey man, I just don't have the resources to get clean. I don't have the resources to reconnect with my family. I don't have the resources to get a new job. Then that's where I would say like a combination safe injection / reintegration program would probably be, I think the Swiss model is brilliant.
We have safe injection sites here, and you know what they result in? They result in a bunch of needles.
That's not what I'm talking about, though.
They result in a bunch of needles floating in the beautiful river that runs through my town.
Okay, but
I don't think those are
I'm not talking about that, though, because effectively what I'm talking about is a indoor, air-conditioned place.
Yeah.
So they talk about like a clinic.
I'm not talking about free needle distribution. I'm not talking about that. As a matter of fact, Portugal used to have a really good, robust anti-drug program that helped a lot of people get rehabilitated. But then what ended up happening is they privatized it. And as a result of the privatization, these contractors want their renewed government contract. And so they've effectively created a bunch of perverse incentives for people to do exactly what you're talking about, where they want to hand out as many free needles as possible because that's how they get their mandate in order to get more needles.
It's 7 o'clock. Let me read some of these super chats, and then we'll get back to it. $2 from Davis991,000. The felony limit in Texas is 2,500. LOL. Interesting. Grassroots Hegemon for $20. Everyone is too soft on crime until we have universal basic prison for all. Okay.
Bro.
$5 from the Scorned One to say National Parks and Museums currently being forced to remove exhibits. Trump calls disparaging. Meanwhile, Wick, let's have a panel on why the Dems are bad. I scheduled this panel a week ago, a little over a week ago, in fact, after the killing of Irina Zarutska. And it was a topic
Happened in a red state, by the way.
That, should be covered. And a question that should be asked. If you don't like the question, there are other topics, other days that you can go and you can watch. But yeah, I'll do what I want.
Be meaner, Wick. Tell that person to fuck off.
Pretty much. Go fuck yourself. Don't let
He
the door
gave
hit
Wick
you.
money. He's not going to say that.
$20 from Grassroots Hegemon to say, I'm a recovering addict. And if you go to one of the AANA meetings, you will find out swiftly homeless people will avoid shelters because they will likely be victimized by the other occupants. Usually theft, often worse. And that.
So, Connor, you were talking about revitalizing basically areas that were decrepit in like cities, right? The problem is that I don't necessarily disagree with you. We should be doing that, but then I constantly hear liberals and leftists scream gentrification, and
do it in places with white people. They won't care.
Yeah, true.
No, I'm joking and I'm not. Like, listen, they're gonna care if you try to revitalize Oakland, California. Okay, they're not gonna care.
They do the same thing in Portland here, by the way. One of the whitest cities in the U.S., and everybody cries about gentrification. They can shut the fuck up.
Well, I was about to say that's because Portland is filled with pussies, not because of any actual real concern of gentrification.
Hey, that's my beautiful city you're talking about, okay?
I know, but tell me that they're not full of pussies, all right?
I know.
So,
I'm joshing.
So hold on, but what I'm really talking about, because oftentimes, Republicans, if I'm putting on my centrist hat, Republicans complain about the Rust Belt. They complain about Appalachia. And the reason why they complain about the Rust Belt and Appalachia is because those are the places hurt hardest by globalization and the offshoring of manufacturing. And so for me, I'm pretty sure that you can actually go into Detroit, Michigan, like satellite view and go onto the street level, and you will find endless abandoned neighborhoods outside of the city core filled with like feral dogs who have been abandoned by their owners and shit. And so for me, that would be the perfect place to start. At ground zero, clear out that thing, rebuild infrastructure, intelligently design a new city, rebuild something that people actually want to live in. And by the way, this can all be done for profit. This can be purchased at a low price by an investor, and it can be built up by an investor, and it can be sold for a profit to a new thriving community. So for me, I really feel like we have a lack of leadership, except for Grassroots Hegemon. We have a lack of leadership in our upper middle class and in our bourgeois, our ownership class. I feel like we have a lack of leadership for American innovation in order to improve the material conditions of the American working class and middle class.
Here's a good
that
question.
Would be a good panel idea, talking about has liberalism abandoned certain working class people in the
Well, the
name
answer
of
is
constant
yes.
economic
The answer is
development.
yes.
Well,
clearly.
yes, and whether that's a good thing or not. As
So
well.
the question
Of
at
course
hand.
not.
Well, it made avocados cheap for a few decades, so that's good.
The question at hand is, what can Democrats do to win over the voting public on crime, to make crime an issue, which if a voter cares about that, they will tend to vote Democrat? What are some policies or some messaging that can be done to change the public perception on this problem?
The police reform that both law enforcement and the American public could get behind. So the fact that, like, I know that most law enforcement jurisdictions have universal body cameras. The fact that that's not mandatory in order to receive federal funding is a fucking stupid miss. Like, all of BLM should have been channeled into the
Funding the
8
police.
can't wait, but there's stupid things in 8 can't wait. So it's more like the 4 can't wait. And then also universal body cameras, and you would have less of an anti-police position from Democrats if they actually did police reform that made sense that people wanted.
So wait, 2 questions on that. One, what is 8 can't wait? What are the 4 things? Do you know what you don't like about 8 can't wait?
Yeah, sure. I can pull it up real quick.
So I can list them. And you can tell me which ones because I got it in front of me right
Sure.
now.
Go for
Ban chokeholds.
ban chokeholds, asterisk, except for in deadly force situations.
Okay. Require de-escalation, which I think most police forces already do. Right?
I'm okay with de-escalation training, or I would change it instead of, because, okay, sorry, real quick, we're getting into the weeds a little bit, but I think it's necessary. When you say require de-escalation, what a cop hears or what a pro-cop person hears is that there's a guy with a knife and that a cop by law has to retreat first before he can interact with that person. That's what requiring de-escalation sounds like to a pro-cop person. Whereas I think if you say require de-escalation training,
Yes.
then most people will sign off on it, because you're still putting the decision making in the law enforcement officer's purview.
This is an argument that I heard this was a while ago since I last heard about this. This was a donut operator was talking about this on his channel. Is that a confident police officer is going to be less likely to pull a gun in a situation, but a less confident police officer is more likely to use like deadly force. So one of the things about all these defund the police movements that are so genuinely retarded is they say they want to be funding the social services. Well, if they want police that are like killing people less, they should be funding the police and giving them more training, essentially.
Yeah, that was Joe Biden's argument, by the way. The Democratic leader,
which was probably not
2020.
popular with the base.
I mean, we elected him. We elected him twice in the primary and
you elected him
if you
once.
Want to change
the second time he elected himself.
We elected him. We elected him over. We elected him over more radical left people that were trying to run to the left of him.
When you didn't hold a primary.
No. In 2020, we had a primary in 2020.
Okay, well, hold on. We made it through 2 of the 8 can't wait. Can we get the other ones just so I feel like a sense of complete?
Required warnings before deadly force, which I think is already a thing, right?
No. So here's the thing: required warning before deadly force. This is one of the ones that I would axe out. Okay, and the reason why I would axe this out is because if you have a fucking mass shooter, he has an AR-15 and he's got soft armor and he's blasting a fucking shopping mall. Law enforcement should not be required to say, hey, you, stop or I'll open fire. All you're doing is you're giving that person an advantage with which to kill you. So that one is another one that you can just cross off the list. Fuck that.
Also, I'm assuming this is instituting like some sort of punishment. Should police be worried about like whether, like, if in a life or death situation, should police be worried about if they're going to draw a weapon and like defend themselves? Well, they're going to get prosecuted in the end or hurt in the end. I don't think we should be putting our police in that situation.
If somebody's drawing a pistol on you, you have to understand these violent situations. What they're thinking about when they're writing the eight can't wait thing is they're thinking about a guy with a gun pointing at a guy with a screwdriver and then him just blasting him and killing him, right? That's what they're thinking about. But what they're not thinking about, and by the way, I think you should, if somebody has a screwdriver and they're running at you, I think you should probably do a verbal warning like, hey, drop the gun or I'm going to shoot, right? Like, I think you should do that in an ideal circumstance. But let's say that you don't have 10 feet. Let's say you have 2 feet and somebody's pulling a pistol or they're pulling a knife and they're trying to slash at your neck. I don't want to have the cop be criminally or civilly liable for failing to warn someone who's trying to stab them or shoot them. That makes no fucking sense.
Or worried about being criminally or civilly
or even worried about
that in which it might hesitate for them to do what needs to be done in order to defend themselves. I mean,
can we agree though, North? Hold on. Can we agree that there are certain situations where we would want a police officer to be cognizant of the fact that, hey, am I doing this right? Is this going to be something?
But that would be a part of the de-escalation training requirement.
Well, yes, but the problem is that things like this is required to exhaust all alternatives before the use of deadly force. That's an absolute requirement. That's not a it's
not a suggestion.
It's not a suggestion. That's like
it's not a context dependent policy. It's a you do this or you will face civil or criminal penalties for failing to do this as a standard. And I think when you already have a police recruiting crisis, I think trying to impose that on law enforcement, not only was that rule written by somebody who's never done law enforcement, you would lose people who would not join because they don't need the liability.
So my stepdad used to be a cop, and I remember watching a movie with him where it was a hostage situation. The cop goes up behind and he says, "Hey," and then he shoots the guy that's holding the person hostage. And I asked him, why did he do that? And he said, because it's required that you warn them before you use deadly force. So maybe it's different in some states.
Saying "hey" before you shoot somebody in the face is probably not going to be a sufficient warning based off of the 8 can't wait standard.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm just saying it might be different in different states. That's where I was getting that was already
I'm sure
a
there's
thing.
all sorts of stupid policy in liberal and progressive and northern cities that have been around for a long time under Democratic control. Yeah, somebody brought this up. So this is a policy suggestion that I had from like 5 years ago. The Uniform Code of Law Enforcement Justice. Okay. There's something called the Uniform Code of Military Justice, the UCMJ, which is what the United States military is under. And it's effectively a series of laws that say that if you fuck around in these ways, the United States military will bury you. And I think that having a federal level universal code of law enforcement justice, where like, let's say that you torture a prisoner or sodomize a prisoner or you plant drugs on somebody or something like that, the feds can come in and totally fuck up your life. I 100% support that as also. Yeah, then you should. Yeah, I 100% support that.
Yeah, fun fact: we have a federal mandate called PREA that actually that specifically deals with like staff on prisoner sexual relations, including rape, but also like consensual but not consensual legally sexual relationships, and they do fuck you up.
Is that common?
It's federal.
In corrections, if you have sexual relationships with inmates or with people who are institutionalized, they can't consent just because of the power dynamic. You will be incarcerated.
What he's asking is does it happen often, and absolutely it happens a lot.
Like the warden in that show about the lesbians in prison. What's it called?
Orange is the New Black.
Orange is the New Black. Yeah, that guy was
sexual favors.
Yeah. You can't do that. I got my eye on you, Chuck. I don't know if you're that type of guy or not, but I always cast doubt amongst those that work in the prison industrial complex.
That's fine.
Well, yeah, but hold on. That's kind of the fucking point is we're talking about like all these things that need to improve. And we have a guy here who's a part of the prison industrial complex who's trying to make the world a better place. And you're like, oh, aren't you a traitorous piece of shit for working in this industry and incarcerating your fellow Americans? And by the way, that's the kind of shit that probably led to a decrease in police recruitment was everybody being like, oh, you're a cop. So you're a fucking traitor. You're a fucking snitch. You love killing black people. I guarantee you that was part of the reduction in recruitment for law enforcement.
Well, I can tell you that as a fact that here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, all of our police departments outside the affluent white suburbs struggle heavily with recruitment. Like Portland police gives insane incentives to anyone who
So,
wants to work there. So
so
to anyone in the chat who wants to make $100,000 a year with no college degree, join Portland police.
good gosh, 100,000? That's crazy.
Well, that's probably including overtime, let's be real. But they probably
Oh,
start
yeah,
at
yeah.
80. They probably start at 80 or 70 or 90
I
or
think they
some
start
shit.
at 90. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't doubt what Connor says that that's a part of it, but we have been struggling as a nation everywhere, Republican districts, Democratic districts, to recruit at least I know corrections officers because I was a corrections officer in 2017, and the amount of forced overtime I had to do was crazy because we were just so short, and I was hearing about it in other states, I was hearing about it in other places, other prisons in Virginia, so this has been a problem for a very long time.
Well, what's the next 8 can't wait thing? Because I want to go through all 8 because I think we accepted 2 with caveats and then we said 2 were stupid, or at least I did.
One was stupid. So all alternatives before deadly force.
Yeah, we just did that
I'd
one,
throw that in the trash.
Yeah.
But like,
Really?
if there's a mass shooter. If there's a mass shooter, you're not going to try to pepper spray a mass shooter. You're not going to try to talk down a mass shooter. There was that church, there was that trans shooter who shot up the Christian church or whatever.
Wait. Hold on.
Huh?
You can talk down a mass shooter. We had one of those here in Portland at Park Rose High School. Kid has a trench coat on in a high school, and the football coach walks up to him, this big black guy, and he just gives him a hug. The guy drops the gun. Both of them start bawling. It's on security.
Yes, but
video.
he's not. Was the guy
do you
shooting?
think that he should be legally required by law to risk his life in order to save the life of the shooter?
No, nobody's advocating.
Well, that's what
for that.
8 can't wait is talking about.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't know if
if there's a super nice cop who wants to do that and he wants to put his pistol on the ground and approach a mass shooter with his arms out and say, "Hey, buddy, do you need a hug?" Then that individual cop can make that judgment and do that. But I'm going to tell you, 9 times out of 10,
what type of person is attracted to policing to begin with? Because it's not like police are just like a cross section of the American populace. You get nice guys and you get mean guys. It's like it takes a certain type of person to be like, you know what I really want to go do? Bust some people's balls all day. I want to go in and give people parking tickets. You know, that sounds like a fun job to me. So I don't know. I'm not pro cop.
I really wish.
I've noticed you're a yuppie who used to be a crusty punk. I get it. But the point is that like that should be up to the cop. That should not be a legislatively mandated thing that you have to try to hug or pepper spray or taser a mass shooter before you shoot them. It should be like those cops in that, not the most recent one, not the church one, but like a year or 2 ago, there was a trans shooter with a Kel-Tec sub 2000 who killed like 2 teachers and like 3 students, and the cops went straight in the fucking building. They pushed, and the second they found the shooter, they fucking blasted her ass. And that was the absolute right response.
Oh, that was the Nashville one.
Yeah. Connor, do you remember, or as a former police officer, I want to get your opinion on this.
Sure.
Have you seen those very long, like forked poles that they use in China with like the people who do
the
stabbings?
schizo catchers?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you need to... No. Sorry. Ask your question, because I'm jumping ahead of you.
Well, I was wondering, what's your opinion on how effective they are, and like, if they should be like used or not?
Well, okay, so right now, this is really funny. A lot of cops by default would say that they're not interested in that, right? They would say, if you have a knife or if you have a screwdriver or if you're trying to stab me or whatever, I should just be able to shoot you. A lot of American cops believe that because they don't think that they should have to risk getting injured in order to save the life of the schizophrenic. However,
that's their job, isn't it?
Well, that's what I was going to say. But if you're being a smug bitch, then you're never going to be able to convince law enforcement to take this risk. So what I would say is that deadly force should always be an option. So for instance, you should always have an Overwatch cop with a pistol or rifle ready to go. And if somebody actually has a knife or a screwdriver and they're trying to stab the jugular of a fellow cop, then that person can be put down. However, I'm also in Florida. We got trained to take on alligators and remove alligators. And the training was fucking awesome. Like wrestling a dinosaur is so fucking cool. And so if you came at it from an excitement perspective where you were like, hey, law enforcement, We want you, we understand that your job is hard. We understand that it's tough. We understand that you don't want to get killed or stabbed or injured. However, there are lots of people who experience drug-related excited delirium, or they're hypoglycemic because of diabetes, and they get killed by law enforcement due to miscommunications. And so we want law enforcement to, when it's an edged weapon, when it's an improvised weapon, when it's a screwdriver or a garden implement, rather than just shooting them, we actually want you to take riot shields and a man grabber, and we want you to wrestle this guy to the ground, and we're going to train you to do so. If you
So
make
you
it
want to
exciting, law enforcement will be
gamify arresting schizophrenics. You want to tell cops, hey, we're playing Ready or Not, and we're doing
yeah,
a
because you're not going to be
non-lethal
a
run.
cop, you smug bitch. You can keep
What the
judging
fuck are you
him for being
talking
in the
about? You
prison
know nothing
industrial
about what I've
complex,
done.
and you can keep
You know
talking
nothing
shit
about
about
what I've
cops.
done.
Huh?
Well, fuck cops. Fuck you too. Fucking
fuck you
pussy. What are you
too.
gonna do?
I'll come
Anyways,
up to I'll grab you with a man grabber.
No, you won't. You won't do that.
Can we get back to a productive conversation?
I don't know if we can. I do want to kind of get back to the overall discussion, though, right? Like, and kind of get to perhaps one of the things. I don't know if my question earlier was really substantively answered, though, about how to convince people that the Democrats are the right choice.
The Republicans have a media apparatus.
You need to do police reform that people are actually comfortable with, and then we were going through 8 Can't Wait.
Well, yeah, okay, then the thing is, okay, so whenever the Republicans institute a policy, whether it's good, bad, horrendous, or whatever, they put it in the media and they put it in your face. No matter what, you know it's being instituted. So Biden, people can talk about Biden statistics, right? But people don't feel that, with like immigration, for example.
Can you give us?
People don't feel that Biden was like having a good immigration policy because they didn't see it in their media. When you look at the Trump administration, they're literally deporting people on TV. So, yes.
Can you tell me the latest or one of the latest crime policies that have been implemented by either the Trump administration or Republicans?
Well, they haven't passed any new legislation. Yeah. They've just videotaped all of their incarcerations.
Wait, hold on. So
I am a
staunch
and all that.
Well, I am a staunch MAGA hater. Okay, I fucking hate the MAGA movement with all of my heart.
Yeah.
But I do think that the Lincoln Riley bill, wasn't that a crime bill specifically
I think
against
you're right
migrants?
As well. No, I think you're right. I think that I don't know if the Lincoln Riley bill passed because I'm a bad political commentator, but the point is that, like, yeah, they publicized the Lincoln Riley Act. They publicized all their incarcerations. And here's another thing, guys, that, like, I understand is frustrating, but Stephen Destiny Bonnell II, he was saying, like, oh, I don't want a social media president. That ship has sailed. Okay, justifying your policies to the American people via Twitter, via video, via YouTube videos, via this, via that. That's the way that the American government is going to be communicating with the American people going forward. So if you have an 80-year-old fucking Democrat who's going to be president of the United States and they're not capable of communicating their losses and wins via social media, then you're going to get your asses kicked by Republicans.
It's the 21st century. We got to
keep up with
the times.
I think that Biden even kind of recognized that in the end when he said, "I should have put my name on the checks."
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, he's right. We should have had twink Democratic staffers making brat Charlie XCX videos of black people
I would say
arrested.
That was probably
I think that would have been a good political calculus.
Yeah, that was probably an aesthetic mistake. You probably should have had a white straight male talking about all that shit, but you know. Little late now.
Yeah, to answer your question, Wick, I honestly, I think that a lot of the things that Democrats do, especially on the federal level, when it comes to law enforcement, so far we haven't elected the defund the police president yet. We haven't elected many defund the police Congress people. There's a few, but most of them are not. I think that they need to publicize what they have done. I think that a lot of this stuff that I found that happened because of the American Rescue Plan on public safety and criminal justice is really good stuff that they could publicize, but nobody knows about it, and I didn't even know about it until I researched for this debate.
Right. Such as?
I was reading it. So Detroit. Overall, it was $15 billion for public safety and violence prevention. And Detroit Democratic mayor, I believe, right? Invested 100 million for public safety. It doesn't. The source I have doesn't go into how. Milwaukee invested 40 million. Philadelphia invested 45 million to upgrade the city's crime lab, reduce gun violence, and invested to prosecute violent crimes. Chicago, the city that Trump wants to invade, 100 million in public safety, including 6.25 million to hire and retain 50 additional officers. Biden
But
announced.
can I just say that you're making a classic Democratic mistake of explaining? Like, I know this is a panel, but you got to be like, we gave a shitload of cash to law enforcement.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
I
what
agree. You can dumb it down for the population. I think you do have to do that.
You just got to be like, we gave a fuckload of money to cops.
Especially my viewers, okay?
Yeah.
Especially my viewers, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, honestly, one of the things that I truly believe, is that the average American is politically stupid, and that's not their fault, really.
You're not wrong. That's why I'm a Republican. I believe in representative democracy. Yeah, you're right. You nailed it.
Oh,
beautiful, wonderful. I'm glad we're in agreement that people are dumb. But again, I just
politically dumb. You gotta separate the politics from the rest of the human, because like politics is a whole.
Okay, do we even consider it politically dumb? It's politically illiterate. I feel like that would be a better term.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Politically ignorant.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we are.
Ignorant.
Okay, in a situation where people are casting votes, whether they're ignorant or not, and Democrats have a situation where they are they need to change people's minds on their perception on whether or not they're soft on crime. Because whether or not they are or are not, I think that we can all agree that the general voting public does view them as soft on crime. So the question is how to change that perception.
So, okay, you need to time travel back in time. You need to not endorse the BLM movement. You need to be more vocal about how defund the police is kind of stupid and how you have a better idea. You need to say that ACAB people are fucking stupid and they're not a part of your movement. And then when Kyle Rittenhouse shoots fucking 3 people who are a part of a riot, instead of saying that Kyle Rittenhouse is a white supremacist mass shooter who fucking murdered 3 people, and you try to villainize him for 2 fucking years while he's under trial, you go, you know what? It's our fault. It's our fault that we allowed this riot to get out of hand, and this young man felt that it was necessary to protect property within his own city. So you know what? Fuck it. Kyle Rittenhouse walks free. We dismiss his fucking charges, and we're going to go ahead and step up and do law enforcement better. And if you don't agree with that, then guess what? You are soft on crime.
Can I say something too? Like, it's very ridiculous for this liberal guy to come in and like Monday morning quarterback and be like, well, the crime policies enacted in 2020 weren't what I was advocating for. Yes, they were. You were cheering this shit on, and don't pretend like you weren't. You wanted the cops to fund it.
Maybe he wasn't specifically, but the side was for sure.
Exactly, and like I'm certain he was too. Like, oh, the cops don't need tanks and AR-15s and assault style weapons and blah blah blah. Like, the cops need to be defunded. They're wasting all this money. It's part of the military industrial complex. It's all bullshit. Come on. You just admit you were wrong.
Listen, buddy, you're a better Republican
that is another
than
thing
me.
as well. I'm of the opinion that police should be able to take former military equipment and utilize that in their force, just because it's cheaper.
I don't think so, because I'd rather it proliferate to the private market, because I really want an MP5. So
hold on. We have to be specific about the equipment, because the truth is that a lot of this hand-me-down stuff, they're like, that was a huge talking point, by the way, and I appreciate you guys bringing it up. A huge talking point was like, oh yeah, armored vehicles used in Iraq and Afghanistan are coming home and they're going to be waging war on American streets. And it's like, yeah, but they're free armored vehicles, and ideally we shouldn't want law enforcement to get shot. Like, so instead of getting a free armored vehicle, you want local police departments to spend money on soft-skinned vehicles where cops get shot. What the fuck are we talking about? And that's
it stimulates the economy when they do that. I think we need to stimulate the economy a little bit more, actually.
They're protected and they're cheap as well, and there's already an infrastructure in place to repair those vehicles.
Okay, I got to go help my wife with some medicine in a second, but I just want to say,
what's his name?
One of the things, Wick, that you're kind of asking is like, well, what should the Democrats do? What should they do now? You know, that the cat is kind of proverbially out of the bag. Well, what I'm going to say is, since time travel is not possible, The next best thing is stop being confidently ignorant. That's the other thing. Because effectively, like, if you're like a huge, I don't know, like political advocate or something, and you actually care about fixing policies, then like approach people with some degree of epistemic humility and say, hey, I actually don't know how law enforcement does its job. Can you explain it to me so I can try to understand it? And I'll tell you, as somebody who participated in Twitch and YouTube politics, that's not what happened when I came into Twitch and YouTube politics. They didn't say, "Oh, you were a cop for 4 years. Please share with us all of your wisdom, dear
but
sir."
you didn't
they said,
deal
"Fuck
with
you ACAB black murdering
you
son of a
didn't
bitch.
deal with
I hope you
Democrats.
fucking die."
You dealt
Like,
with lefties, and there are a
Well,
big
the
listen,
Democrats
difference.
were willing to
there.
tolerate the lefties. I mean,
Yeah, but dude, that was the thing. It's like the discourse on Twitch and YouTube politics was so dominated by lefties because the liberals wouldn't tell them to shut the fuck up.
Okay, so yeah, you say that Democrats tolerated the lefties. Yeah, we tolerated them, but we in online spaces, but we didn't tolerate them in elections. Like, there's very few lefties that actually wins elections especially compared to, like, I know you two are no longer in that coalition, which is great, which is why I have immense amounts of respect for you, even though we disagree a lot on policy. But like that side, the pro. That side did allow their crazies to take over.
Yeah, you're not going to find any defense for that.
Yeah,
here.
yeah. So
I need
we
to go
tolerated.
help my son take some medicine, but I will literally be back in the next like 2 minutes, 5 minutes.
Okay.
So we tolerated them, but we didn't let them take over, and they barely have any power within the Democratic Party. Barely any at all.
the problem is that there is still a conversation going on online about whether the Democratic Party is going to appeal to these leftists in order to win a future election. I mean, this was on a debate with Pisco and Destiny a while ago, and that I would argue that debate is still going on today, whether the mainstream Democrats should be appealing to the socialists and the leftists in order to win elections. So it's not a mere fact that, well, sure, you might not have fully tolerated them in the general elections, but you're still willing to tolerate them, right? Like, you're still willing to indulge them in order to see if you can get like a better position. Am I wrong?
It depends what you
I don't know
mean
what
by
you...
indulge them to get a better
Well-
position. I'm not going to kick them out of my spaces, or I'm not going to ban them from my platform. I'm not going to ban them from my Discord. But if you think I'm going to them to ask them for policy positions, you're wrong,
to build a broader
right?
coalition.
Like, I'm just not going to do that. So.
I mean, we can only. I don't know what's going to happen in 2028 in order to try and win this next election. Historically, the Democratic Party has tried to appeal to the center. You can see that with the 2024 platform. There was no defund the police stuff in there. I believe there wasn't even in 2020. I know that Biden explicitly ran against that. He said that we don't need to defund the police. We need to fund them more. And that's the guy that got in, because our crazies, while maybe we indulged them, I don't really know what you mean by that, but we didn't let them win at all. They didn't even really come close, to be honest.
But you let the Republicans take the narrative that was the mainstream Democrats.
We are awful at narrativizing. That's true.
No,
yeah.
this is so lame. This is why Democrats never fucking change, because you all convince yourselves that when you're doing poorly, it's just that you're not talking about how good you're doing enough. Okay, like with the Biden border thing, it was hilarious because 80% of what Biden did at the border, the reason why he didn't publicize it was because it was done under Title 42, which Trump passed during the emergency time of COVID, and so he wouldn't be able to take full credit for it because Trump would get the credit for it. That's why, because he didn't actually do much himself that he wasn't given the power by Trump to do for immigration. Hold on, stop, hold on.
Okay, no, go ahead. You're new. Go ahead. Yeah.
So, also that we didn't let the lefties win. In terms of crime, yes, the fuck Democrats do. Maybe not you, but when you look at guys like George Gascon, who was the DA in San Francisco and LA, he is as lefty and progressive as it gets on crime. The dude is a prosecutor whose, goal is to prosecute less crime. You are not the tough on crime party if your DAs are defined by their desire to prosecute less, and the other side's prosecutors win their elections by saying, I'm going to prosecute more.
So, hold on. What is your name? I can't see your name. Jim?
Jeb.
Jeb?
Jeb.
Yeah.
Jeb. Okay, so yes, that you can find probably a handful, probably more than one Democratic DA that has a extremely soft on crime. That's because there's like thousands of them, thousands of
Sure. How many
DAs in this
Republican
country.
DAs just let people walk as part of their bid to get elected?
I don't know. Probably not many in Republican states because they Republicans want
tougher
to
on
just
crime.
they want to just incarcerate everybody for long periods of time. Their idea of like tough on crime is more time in prison and more cops on the streets, and you know.
That
Gavin
sounds like it's
Newsom,
tougher on crime. You may
was
say
gonna
that
Gavin Newsom,
tougher on crime.
Gavin Newsom also agrees with the de facto leader of our party agrees with putting more cops on the streets. That's why he did it in
yeah, but Gavin
in his
Newsom's
state.
the one who made George Gaston the chief of police in San Francisco. He's the one who endorsed him as the DA in San Francisco, and then endorsed him when he moved down to LA to be the DA there. So he's the exact person I'm talking about. Gavin Newsom was the reason he exists.
He is also trying to deal with a mass incarceration problem in his state, and as a part of that, as a part of his holistic crime policies, he doesn't support things
but
like
who is complaining about mass incarceration, by the way? And I'm kind of serious about this. I'm kind of being a dick about it, but like. The people who are complaining about mass incarceration are probably, I would say, criminal justice advocates, activists, all that kind of stuff. They see the abuses that are in the system. They see people getting stuck behind prison in jail for a long time. But at the same time, that's not really the general population. Like the general population is probably, relatively speaking, okay with the fact that crime has been cut in half in the past 30 years. And they will be sympathetic to people who are incarcerated improperly. They'll be sympathetic to people who are either raped or abused in the incarceral system and all that kind of stuff. But like, I don't think there's this broad popular electoral mandate for criminal justice reform because most people just don't want shitty criminals as neighbors.
Well, and the criminal justice reform that kind of did happen most actively and most recently was under Trump, when you had Kim Kardashian go to him and ask him about actually like alleviating some of the conditions for people who were incarcerated and letting some people who seem to have been
but that wasn't
reformed
systemic. Let's be real.
No, it wasn't systemic. What I'm saying is like I can't point out a single Republican that runs on prosecuting less or being less tough on crime, and I can find Republicans that manage to do their best, like push some criminal justice reform while not being any softer on crime. With the Democrats, it seems like for them, like you kind of said, your only real vision of criminal justice reform is putting people away in jail for less time, having less cops on the street, or at least not adding more of them. And so it's like, you can say, I would just say it with your chest. I'm like, we are less tough on crime, but maybe being tough on crime is what we need to stop crime. But that's the argument you're making.
Is the prompt Democrats are too soft on crime, or is the prompt Democrats are softer on crime than Republicans? Because if the prompt is Democrats are softer on crime than Republicans, and your definition of soft on crime is just that we put them away for less time and we have sometimes less cops on the streets, then yeah, they are softer on crime than Republicans. But that's not the prompt. The prompt is are Democrats soft on crime? And I will say that Democrats aren't.
Sure, but your arguments have been that Democrats might be even tougher on it, right? Because they're still funding the police.
Well, yeah. If your definition,
we're taking also this in the
if your definition of tough,
Party,
if your definition of tough on crime is just that we're going to put more cops on the streets and we're going to put people away for a longer time, but my argument is that Democrats have a much more holistic view of how to deal with crime. We don't just want to put people away. We have that as a tool that we use, but we also use other tools to try and take down the crime rates.
It's a prioritization issue is really what it comes down to, right? Because everybody says the thing, well, if Democrats are softer on crime, why is the big crime in the red states? Well, the reason why is because the crime is in blue cities and red states, where there's a blue city in a state that doesn't give a ton of money to their big cities to play around with. And so the blue city leadership is actually forced to prioritize funds. And when you give Democrats the opportunity to prioritize city funds, they don't tend to prioritize being tough on crime over a number of other things. And that's the problem.
Can I share? I want to share an anecdote before we lose it, though, because you were talking about like weak DAs or whatever. And I want to share an anecdote that's infuriating to me. So I live in Central Florida, and Orange County is one of the largest counties in Central Florida. And I have a lot of friends who graduated from my class who became Orange County sheriff's deputies. And one of the things that was so repulsive to me that I fantasized about, like homicidal, I had a homicidal fantasy, was that the district attorney for Orange County reduced the amount increased the amount of indicators that you need for a dog fighting ring. So it used to be that if you have pit bulls with steroids and they're kept in cages and they're bred and all that kind of shit, that's enough for suspicion of a dog fighting ring. She increased it to like 5 to 7 things that you needed to have in order to indict somebody for dog fighting. And then my friend who works for Orange County found 5 fucking things that violated the statute that the state attorney's office was going to prosecute for. And when he passed up the case to the state attorney, they declined to prosecute. And when he asked about it, they basically told him to fuck off. So my question is, like, how is allowing inner city black folk to fight pit bulls and engage in animal cruelty helping the carceral state or mass incarceration? Because for me, it just looks like you're sweeping for fucked up, barbaric, evil shit.
Yeah, so I probably wouldn't agree with that specific DA, but like I said, there's thousands of DAs out there, and you're going to be able to find anecdotes for anything. I'm sure there are probably anecdotes of Republican DAs out there. I don't have them because I didn't come here preparing.
Well, hold on. We have an example. The current Republican DA at the federal level is overlooking a fucking mass pedophile ring. So, like, listen, the Republicans are not without sin. That's not my point.
Well, actually, the point
Republicans they at least make the words with their mouth saying that they care about crime.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so I mean, but I mean, I was going to make it more like less. So my point was going to be
make the point you want to make.
The problem with Republican DAs are probably more the other side, where you have more people going to prison that shouldn't be there, or people are serving sentences long after rehabilitation because you guys just want to put people away for a very long time, and things like Prop 47, which I wholly disagree with, but kind of agree with what it was trying to do. It was looking to try and prevent things like that, and it ended up having a negative effect. They repealed it because Democrats are not soft on crime. They don't like crime. But they do try to do things to try to make the criminal justice system more holistic. And I have examples of that I've already went over a couple of times on the stream, but I can go over them again.
Yeah,
And you said
the issue is a lot of times when they don't have, right? Because I know what you mean by holistic. A lot of times those holistic programs take a lot of funds. And so when they don't have the funds to do it all at once, what they tend to do first, what Democrats tend to do first, is pull the foot off the gas in prosecution and taking people. So another thing, you were like, DAs everywhere. Gavin Newsom, as a governor in the state of California, reduced the crime, or reduced the penalty for knowingly transmitting HIV, right? He reduced that from an automatic felony to a misdemeanor. And the issue is, right, it's this motive, and it's the reason I say it's a prioritization issue. The same reason why the DA that Connor is talking about, she did that under the guise of there's an over-incarceration of people in these underprivileged neighborhoods that live just in a different culture that just do these things. And Gavin Newsom, for the same justification, prioritized the safety of the gay community from like public scrutiny over the rights of people who get.
Okay, before you respond,
yeah.
I do need to get through these super chats and make a little money. Okay. Well, you don't have to leave. you can.
No, he said he has to go to the bathroom.
Oh, fair enough. Michael Tuglas for $5 says morons say but red states while ignoring the problem areas are blue cities, which run the local cops, the local prosecutors, and the local judges. $10 from Audacity to say Dems got to get a Jeb style video where Gavin has someone in a ground and pound. Thank you for the $10. Audacity for $5. What does Connor think of Ready or Not?
Oh yeah.
Probably one of the most realistic depictions of clearing a room that I've ever seen. I still haven't played it yet, but the way that I've seen people playing it, where like it's just endless tension, where your death is insta kill and you have to clear every single inch of a building to make sure you don't get fucking smoked. It's one of the coolest video games that I've seen in the past decade.
Oh yeah, and I want to make a small correction. Gavin Newsom was there when it got implemented. The person who drafted the bill was Senator Scott Wiener, Democrat, and then the governor who presided over that bill passing was Jerry Brown, also a governor. So it wasn't Newsom, but it was still California Democrat legislature all the way up and down.
$5 from Alexander Wren to say, I'd like to ask, when people say soft on crime, does that just mean they don't punish criminals or that they don't punish them enough?
I would say it's enough. As an example, like a lot of law enforcement is stereotypically frustrated with the revolving door policy of incarceration. You can hit somebody with battery, aggravated battery. You could hit somebody with shoplifting and a felony dollar amount, and they'll basically be out like pending trial. If they have a bond, they'll be out within 48 hours. And so somebody that you put into jail or prison hoping that you had solved the problem for the community, they're back on the street within 48 hours.
Okay.
Well,
Hold on, just Nuggles.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you can't drive while streaming, so if you're planning on driving, you're gonna have to
Oh
let
no,
you
I
know.
was just starting up my car just to sit in it. I was gonna hook the
Okay. Just making sure.
exhaust up with a hose to my cabin and
And you can't
asphyxiate.
you can't do that either. But I know.
God damn it! What's with all these
I know.
rules?
All
Thought
those
this was America.
liberals
Alright.
killing your freedoms. $5 from Metalworks.
Well, I'm glad because
Yeah, you're muting yourself.
well, that's good. And driving as well, and I'd rather that not be on camera. So
Okay.
I'll rejoin once I'm
Bye-bye.
safe and sound.
Okay. $5 from Metalworks to say, a little off topic, but if libs knew how guns work and the regulations around them worked, they'd be taken more seriously when debating about them.
I'm available for that, by the way. I'm sure North is as well. Listen, I hate fucking Democrats or whatever, but if liberals became interested in firearms and they wanted to go to the range and shoot guns and learn how to clean and learn how to maintain and learn how to do it safely, I'm sure fucking Jeb Tan, North, and we'd fucking love to take you to the range so you can be less ignorant on firearms.
Beautiful.
100%.
$5 from Cameraman 502 to say, cherry-picked DAs in LA, San Francisco, Orlando, 4 DAs in New York, Chicago seems more like a pattern than cherry picking.
I mean, I'm with you.
Okay. Well, gang, it's $5 more. Jacob L. Connor, is the Imperium of Man just as bad as its enemies, or do you consider them to be the good guys? This could be
I consider them to be the good guys. So a lot of people, they'll make that argument because the Imperium is dogmatic and authoritarian, arguably fascistic, xenophobic, murderous, all that kind of stuff. That's true, but also like chaos will actually just take human beings and other sentient creatures and like flay them alive or do indescribable sex acts to them. So yeah, I do think that sodomizing someone to death is worse than fascism.
I didn't know your mom was a chaos creature who would do unspeakable sex acts to people. That's crazy.
What about the
okay,
cattle, though?
well, $5 from Gelatinous Rube to say Republicans are soft on crime because they enjoy the crackdown on civil liberties that homeless provide. Okay.
No, okay, hold on. There's a real point here, though, that should be addressed. This can go in the other direction, which is a fucking problem. For instance, like this whole cultural attempt to bypass posse comitatus by deploying federalized troops and federalized services into the streets to do local law enforcement. I view this as the exact kind of threat the founding fathers were warning against. And so while I don't think that National Guard troops are going to be like banging it out on city streets in order to oppress American citizens, in a different culture, this would be the kind of red flags that we're looking for the death of the Republic.
Okay.
So don't shoot your local National Guardsman. He's probably just a 19-year-old putting himself through college. However, the fact that he's on your local street is scary.
Okay. With that, we have run the length of the panel. We're circling the drain. We're gonna get to closing statements. Then we're gonna close this shit out. Thank you all for coming. I know it's a rough one today. We've had 2 replacements, last-minute replacements on a 4-person panel. That's always crazy. But hopefully you guys at least enjoyed the show. And if you have, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We got great shows coming up. Tomorrow, I'm going on a Gibbs panel to talk about political violence in America. Next week, we have a show on whether or not Republicans are engaging in cancel culture. Is the canceling of the people who are not sufficiently mourning Charlie Kirk an appropriate thing? Like, should Jimmy Kimmel have gotten canceled for his remarks on Charlie Kirk? Worth talking about.
Are you still taking people for that panel? Or...
Get with me later.
Okay.
I'll have to look at what slots I got open, frankly. We're also going to be talking about, is the right overreacting to the threat of the left after the Charlie Kirk issue? Lots to talk about, lots to discuss. Should be fun. Okay, that said, closing statements to all these lovely people who hopped on. Remind them where they can find you. I have links to all their stuff in my YouTube description. And make sure to give them a follow too. We'll start with North. We'll let Counter have the last word. North, go ahead.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube at North or North is Live. One of those should pop up on the YouTube recommended. Or you can find me on Twitter, formerly or X, formerly known as Twitter. I hate saying that. At that guy's North. I talk about the need to retake the Republican Party. If you're a never Trump Republican, and if you feel like you're disconnected from everything right now, and you don't have like a place to go to, hit me up. We'll there's a community out there for you.
We're building it.
Yeah, we're building it.
Okay. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you, especially since you came on last minute. Okay, appreciate that.
Yeah,
Liberal Cluck, go ahead.
I'm Liberal Cluck. I'm on YouTube and Kick. I don't really use any of the Twitters or anything. I do have one, but I don't really use it. I do want to say real quick that Jeb said something about them declassifying AIDS as felony to a misdemeanor because they wanted to protect homosexuals or something like that. That's not why. The big reason why was that they wanted to encourage more testing, because people were fearing prosecution was the theory, and they wanted to encourage more testing by getting rid of that fear. Also, Connor, Jeb, and North, if you ever want a lefty to debate, I am always available. I do this for fun. I don't really have a following, so you're not going to get anything like that. But you see how I debate. I come with sources if given enough time. I try to come with the truth, or at least back up what I'm saying and stuff like that.
Okay, thanks for coming, and appreciate you being here. Jeb Tan, you kind of hopped on just to replace the golf guy, so go ahead, give your little spiel.
No, yeah, my main closing statement is just Democrats are too soft on crime, and I think there is an argument that Republicans in a lot of places are too hard on crime. But I think that Democrats disqualify themselves from the conversation in most people's eyes when they won't recognize that the Democrats are too soft on crime. So when they critique the Republicans, people just see it as someone who wants to be soft on crime saying the Republicans should be softer, instead of someone saying, yeah, you know what, there's probably a middle ground between the LADA and where the Republicans are at in Louisiana trying to actually cut off people's balls. So it's like there's probably a middle ground, and we
Probably
should,
middle ground somewhere.
Yeah, we should call that out. And I think that's why you see actually really good leadership in like purple areas, right? Because Democrats aren't just inherently always wanting to let criminals go. It seems like Democrats with enough normal Republicans around them, where everybody realizes that we're all good, tend to have really strong police forces and communities that support their police. If you want to be more tough on crime, literally just support your cops more enthusiastically and publicly and proudly, because cops that feel like the community's at their back tend to operate better.
Okay, thank you for being here. Counterpoints. Last but not least.
Yeah, so my name's Connor. I run a science fiction channel named Counterpoints 40K. I also do Counterpoints Politics. I'm live Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Most days, I'm live on Valor Media Network, VALOR, Media Common Spelling, Network Common Spelling. But on Tuesdays, I'm live on Counterpoints Politics. So if you enjoyed any of my takes, I'm also a Never Trump Republican. I'm hoping that Pisco was trying to recruit me last week. He was trying to say, hey, the Republicans are gone, man. They're dead. They're gone. Just be a Democrat. And after Charlie got shot, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, the Republicans are such big pieces of shit. I can't save their souls. They're a bunch of fucking dicks. And then North showed up and he was like, no, don't give up on them. There's things worth fighting for. That there's actual principled conservative beliefs that actually matter, that need to be represented on the right, and they need to be represented in American politics. And the liberals are a bunch of pussies who can't do shit anyways. True. So fuck them. Don't be a liberal. Be a Never Trump Republican. If nobody else is doing it, then we're going to build it. And his youthful zeal inspired me. And so as a result, I'm going to try to work with North, and I'm going to try to make the center left, a little bit more right wing. Maybe they'll be into guns. I'm going to try to make the right a little bit more like me. and we're probably going to fail, but we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. So fuck it.
Okay.
We're gonna die trying. That's what we're
Well,
gonna do.
don't
Hopefully
die.
not
Hopefully
literally.
we all survive and everyone's good and we all live forever in happiness and health. Okay, that
Sure.
said, thanks. This was a rough one, gang, but we got through it. I love you all, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out, Girl Scouts. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
See ya.